welcome to this ninth session of 15 sessions of the day of practicing transition. We are in Darning the Planet now. I'm super happy to introduce a beautiful project that is happening since some years in Tooting in England, UK, and also another similar project that is happening in Mexico and Latin America. So we are willing to share, to learn from each other, and to exchange what is the similarities and the differences of doing the different transition actions in communities around the world, in our cultural diversity, in our language diversity. So we're super happy to have you here. And I can say that we are with Resina, Chowdhury, sorry for the language, that has been an active member of Transition Tooting for around 7 years and has participated in many projects aimed at supporting the refugee community in Tooting, gardening, and promoting plant-based meals. She also has many years of experience as social worker. Happy to be with you, Resina. Resina is asking for us to speak slowly, and we are also needing for Cynthia, if needed, to speak more slowly to understand each other. Yeah. And Nicola Pattinson has been an active member of Transition Tooting since 2017 and has particularly enjoyed working with creative projects that promote social inclusion, fight waste, and help biodiversity. For example, by encouraging everyone to grow pollinators friendly animals, even if you have one window box. So sewing and handicraft had also been a lifelong interest. And we are super happy to receive you, to learn from you. Please take your space. We're going to listen first to Nicola and Resina. Then we're going to see a video recording of Darning the Planet. Then we will have a questions and answers space. And later, like a round of checkout. So we are with you.
Thank you very much. I'm very, very happy to be here. And I really hope you will enjoy listening to about our project. So I'm going to share the screen now, and I hope you can see it. Yeah, that's it. So can you all see that okay? Yeah, great. So the name of our project is Sewing and Sanctuary, and it's a transition tooting project in collaboration with Oxfam and also an organisation called Community Action for Refugees and Asylum Seekers. So the project was set up with the 3 organisations. In the beginning, there was a garden group, there was a garden project, and that was a project facilitated by myself and Nicola. And it was a funded project by the council for Transition Tooting to run a garden group for refugee women. So it was in collaboration with Community Action for Refugees and Asylum Seekers, that organisation. And we ran the project for a year. And it was a wonderful project. And the women really enjoyed attending. But because it was a grant-funded project, it did end after a year. And myself and Nicola, we'd enjoyed that project so much And we were thinking of what could we do to continue the fantastic work we've been doing with refugee women. And an opportunity came up at another transition project, which was fixing fashion. And it was about promoting repurposing clothes. And part of that project was a fashion show. And we went to the fashion show and we met with the manager of Oxfam. And she was very keen for us to run a group or run a session with the refugee women for a sewing project. So she was quite keen. And so we ran our first sewing project, which was to make a sewing kit for the women. And to make that kit, we went to another organisation called Scrap Store. And Scrap Store basically collect all kinds of waste from businesses and materials, paints, textiles, lots and lots of different things are available for art projects so that nothing gets wasted. So we visited that project and we collected scissors and cotton, needles, and we made up sewing kits for the refugee women. So this was the project that we did. Um, and the women loved it, really enjoyed it. And the manager of Oxfam was really pleased to see that project go so well and suggested that we could run a regular sewing group at the Tooting Oxfam shop, which is a very big shop and has quite a large space upstairs for a group to run. So it was from that the Sewing and Sanctuary group started, and we called it Sewing and Sanctuary because we wanted to emphasise that this was a group for refugee women, for them to feel that this was a space for them to be safe and to be welcome. So that was the origins of our group. And I'm now going to hand you over to Nicola to talk more about the group.
Thank you, Resina. Hello, can everyone hear me? Good, good. That's lovely. Yes, so we started the group, and one of the primary things about it was we found it's a wonderful place to meet together, as Resina said, provide a place of sanctuary and make friends. So from the very beginning, we found the act of sitting around a table, hand stitching together, is very calming and great for our mental health. Our group is a place of sanctuary where women have respite from busy jobs, busy roles, looking after, being a carer for partners or children or parents, and it's somewhere they can come and relax. We stitch slowly, we chat, we have tea and biscuits and relax together. Many women have experienced loneliness, depression and anxiety, and they have said the sewing group has really helped them. They've made friends, they feel happier and they feel more confident. Well, occasionally we have a bring and share lunch, and when we do this, we bring food from our many different countries and cultures. As well as refugee women, we have women from the local community, and Tooting is a very diverse community. Some women are beginners and others are highly skilled, and many are very creative. So we come together and we show what we've made, and that's very inspiring. Some are skilled at crochet, some at knitting, and some are very good on the machine, others at embroidery. So we share our skills, and that's a great way of getting to know one another. And we also gather inspiration from one another. One example of a nice project that we have done together is making lavender-filled hearts with positive words on. I can just show you some examples. It's a lovely thing to do. And we found one of our ladies, who was a refugee woman, was saying her husband made one after she'd made one at home, and he found it really helpful. So that's a nice little project that you can try at home. Resina, would you like the next slide, please?
Sorry, I'm just trying to get to the next slide.
So the next slide.
Hold on.
Here we go. Here we go. Connecting with the local community. Yeah, in this slide, I want to talk about two projects. Sometimes we make these individual things, and other times we like to do joint projects, which is a great way of getting to work with one another. So I'm going to talk about two. One of them, it was a commission from a local charity which supports people with dementia and their carers. And they run a monthly session called the Iris Cafe. And they wanted a banner made totally out of reused material. So as Resina said, we love reusing material. So we went to the scrap store to get the main part of the banner. I should mention that Oxfam shops, you may not know in other countries, but they're very famous in our country for selling donated goods, pre-loved clothes mostly. And some of those clothes that aren't sold go into recycling. So we try and use anything going into recycling as well. So with the Iris Cafe, one of our facilitators went to meet with the people who have dementia, who use the cafe, and found out their hobbies and interests. For example, one man used to play cricket, another was a painter, another remembered growing tomatoes back in Jamaica, and the others mentioned listening to music. So we brought these ideas back to the group, and they came up with these wonderful motifs. You'll see them on the banner there. One of my favorites was a lady came up with the idea of crocheted vinyl records, which I think was brilliant. I went back to the group, the dementia group, and did a craft activity with them. And we made pom-poms and felt flowers. I brought them back to the group. They got stitched onto the banner as well. So it's a lovely collaborative project, and they loved the banner. It's very tactile and it's very colourful, and it has meaning to them. And we've now got a nice relationship with the group, and we still occasionally run activities for them. And another really good community project we did was run by a wonderful woman called Patricia, who joined us for a while, all the way from Colombia. And she had this great idea that she was with us. We have people who've come recently to London as refugees from places like Afghanistan and Pakistan, other countries too. And we also, a lot of Londoners were perhaps born in other countries, have heritage of other countries, or just from other parts of the UK. So she asked us a question: how do we make London feel like home? And we represented this by making household goods or things for the house out of reused materials, often in pairs. And we used symbols and colours or things that made us think of those countries and techniques, and then wrote a little bit about what they meant to us. Also, during the project, as we made these things, some of the women stood up and talked about their families, their homes, and their childhood. So it was a really lovely project. So in these pictures, for example, you can see a lovely tea set made out of fabric. That was made by a lady who originally lived in France, and that reminded her of having tea in France and chatting over tea. In the window, the shop window, at the end of the project, it was all displayed in the Oxfam shop window in the high street. So it was a great talking point. But you can see to the left of the picture a bed set. This was beautifully detailed with work by two Afghan women. And they entitled that work dreaming of a better life in London, which I think is just lovely. Patricia, who's from Colombia, she partnered with a lady who is from Kenya but has Indian heritage, and they crocheted the hammock using strips of cut up fabric, which would have gone into the waste in Oxfam. There were also, you'll see, there were lovely rugs, plaited rugs and stools, and everything tells a story. But that's just another way of, a wonderful way of connecting with each other and with the community. The next slide, please, Resina. I also want to talk about reuse and repurposing. I've mentioned this a lot already during this talk, but a lot of what we do involves that. And in the pictures, you can see some examples of what we've made. So we've made draft excluders, which are really fun and easy to make, top left there. They're like a long fabric tube, and you just stuff it with cut up pieces of cut up old t-shirts, something like that. The fun part, you can also make them into snakes or dogs if you feel like it. On the right, you can see two tote bags. These tote bags had a logo on them. They were free fabric bags, but they had this logo. So one of our facilitators, Margaret, she had this clever idea of covering that with some crochet. We then put out the challenge to all the women in the group to come up with ideas of hiding the logo. And they did this in various ways with embroidery, with applique, all sorts of imaginative and clever ways. The bottom left, you can see a jacket, which is made by, well, not made, but patched up by one of our very creative women. And you can see she's used beautiful fabric on the elbows and made this lovely dragonfly, which is covering a hole. So she's making this lovely tweed jacket last longer, giving it a new life and making it beautiful at the same time, which is really inspiring. The bottom right-hand corner, this is rather fun. There are, can't quite see it so well in the picture maybe, but we were given a big bag of ties, gentlemen's ties. So we thought, how can we use these? So some of the ideas that we came up with, one is, the red one is a fabric, a tie angel for the Christmas tree. Top right is a little purse. Underneath that is a case for your spectacles. You can't quite see in the picture here, but one of our facilitators made an entire skirt out of ties. And then another lady inspired by this made her daughter, her granddaughter, a skirt and waistcoat entirely out of ties, and then used another tie to decorate her sun hat. So just goes to show how the inspiration carries on. Next slide, please, Resina. So creating opportunities. The wonderful thing about the group is it's led to all sorts of interesting connections with other organisations. Of course, there's Oxfam, which is very supportive, and some of our women volunteer in the shops, which helps with their confidence and also helps with their English, because obviously a lot of people, English is not their first language. So in the top left-hand corner, you see a detail of our banner, which you will have seen in other pictures in the slides. We made this beautiful banner. Each letter was made by a different woman in a different technique and can tell a bit of a story about them. We were invited to an event by Wandsworth Welcomes Refugees, another local charity, and we were there with other community sewing groups. And Liberty came to that event, the people from the Equalities Department and the Design Department. They were really impressed with the quilts. They were purchasing one for their archives, but also they loved our banner, and we got an invitation to the design studio, which was a great connection, and we hope to have further connections with them. We also met a local entrepreneur called Sakina O'Neill, who runs a wonderful fashion company called Rerun, and she's remaking hoodies and sweatshirts, which she purchases from charity shops, and she cleverly takes out any tears and replaces it with tie-dyed material or stripes of material. And we've been invited. She came to one of our workshops, and she's also invited women to her studio. And again, we hope through that connection that might be good work experience or possibility of future employment for some women. And another connection, Royal College of Art trying to establish a regenerative hub, fashion hub in Wandsworth, to have a closed loop of clothing. And they invited us as stakeholders to come and share some of our knowledge, which was very exciting. So final slide, Resina. I'd like to talk about skill sharing, as well as learning from each other and sharing skills. We've done lots of events, lots of them through Transition Tooting. The picture at the top left, we had a lovely event called Sew It and Show It, and it was all around re-wearing clothes, repairing clothes, and getting away from fast fashion. And we had a table there, and we were doing sashiko and borrow patching of denim patches. That's a Japanese repair technique. Very good for beginner sews because it just involves borrow stitch, a running stitch rather. And in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see more pictures of that. And that was a workshop we ran for 30 Oxfam shop staff. And lots of them were not sews before, so that was really fun to do. We also did a workshop in the shop where we were upcycling clothes. So, for example, you can see a detail as well of the lady in the foreground. A shirt had a stain on it, and she's covering that with a beautiful embroidery of a heart. And, you know, we added other details to plain clothes to make them more exciting, and we changed buttons, that kind of thing. So it was a really good learning experience. We had a great event recently called Tooting Can, where it was all about sharing skills, all kinds of skills, from cooking to football to repairing remote controls. But we had a table there, and again did the borrow stitch, and we had some total beginners there. And it's a really great way to start that conversation about repairing your clothes, looking after them, and how you can just make them as new, but in a really fun way and an enjoyable way as well. So that's just a little bit of window into what we get up to in Sewing and Sanctuary.
Thank you so much, Nicola and Resina, for sharing. Yeah, it comes to me like the image of many voices and a lot of diversity. Yes. London is one of the more like diverse places on the world. And
absolutely.
Somehow, yeah, like
it's
so
very
many...
much reflected in our group. Yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We're very so lucky in London. I think we're very lucky in London because we meet people from so many different countries, and it's so enriching to have experience of different cultures.
Yeah. So for example, I mentioned those bring and share lunches. Many people bring foods from their own culture, and that's another way of chatting, talking about them, getting to know one another over food. So it's just so enriching, as Resina says, isn't it, in so many levels.
Yeah. And when I met with Dora and Anahi to do the recording that we are going to share now, one of the things that we were sharing is that the coming together to swing or like knitting, like tejer, I don't know how to say in English, to weave, is an archetypical action for many, many cultures. So somehow it connects us with a memory of many women and many people, beings coming together to do something with my hands, but what is happening in between us is another layer of weaving.
Yeah, it's absolutely, you're so right, and it's so, and that's the real joy of it. It brings back memory, I think, as your colleagues mentioned as well, of you know, other generations, but we have that in common. It's something we have in common. It might be a different style or different technique, but we have that in common, and it is a lovely bonding experience.
Yeah. Thanks, Nicola. And I see, Bonnie, your question. And I think we can flow with this and then we can come back to question at the end. So you can talk about funding. What was your budget, etc. Nicola?
Yes, absolutely. Well, incredibly, we haven't spent any money at all, really. Oxfam provides the room. They really wanted to provide a place of sanctuary, in particularly for refugee women. All of the facilitators, including myself and Resina and the many other wonderful ones who help do that as volunteers, almost everything we've got it has been donated. So it's either the shop that we work in is a place of last resort for the clothes. So if they don't get sold there, they go into recycling. So we can take any of that waste, it takes it out of the waste. Once people got to hear of us, many people give us directly sewing equipment and fabric. And some of the other Oxfam shops, so Nellie, who Resina mentioned in the introduction, she manages 18 shops. So if there's anything sewing related, that's how we got many of our sewing machines. And then one of the things we've done is we took part in an exhibition run by Wandsworth Welcomes Refugees, who I've mentioned. And a benefactor saw our contribution and actually came and gave us a new machine. So we have been, I think if you start, I'd love other people to start this. And once you start a sewing group, as we were saying, many women have sewing in their history and their culture. So what I found of a lot of elderly women or people who've lost a mother who sewed have given us their sewing equipment as well. So, you know, the sort of reels of cotton and the scissors and those kind of things. Transition Tooting has, you know, we've maybe bought the odd thing like a pair of scissors, not very much, but it's the wonderful thing about the project is that it's totally unfunded. So yeah. I think because of that, anyone could do it. Anyone could do it.
I think the strength of the project is the fact that it was organised with other organisations, so with Oxfam and with the Refugee Centre and with the scrap store that I mentioned. And I think it's just being able to pull from all those resources. You can actually create a group with not very much money at all. And that's the beauty of working collaboratively with other organizations.
Okay. Yeah, I have one more question. But how do you think this
Bonnie,
was? Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. How could this translate to the houseless population? Do you think?
Well, you could if you had a base for them to come to, they could sew. Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Bonnie, for your questions. And we will continue sharing, reflecting later after also integrating the perspective of Mexico. That is a different reality than what you're sharing and similar in other aspects. So I want to welcome our friends Anahi and Dora. Anahi Martinez is a systemic artivist, solar punk, member of Transition Mexican Hub, creator and facilitator of learning processes, educational models, and systemic laboratory of imagination. And Dora Napolitano is the founder of Darning the Planet, that is a textile artist, permaculture student, and founding member of Sourcing the Planet, Darning the Planet, and a transitioning of life regenerative being. So,
les quiero dar la bienvenida con mucha alegría a Anahi Martínez y Dora Napolitano de México, del Hub de México. Hoy día estamos compartiendo de café reparación y surciendo el planeta al servicio del proyecto de prácticas de transición. Y me encantaría escucharlas, que se presenten un poquitito, que nos cuenten un poquitito de su contexto, de qué las motiva a estar en Transición México, de qué las motiva a estar en el Café Reparación y en Surciendo el Planeta, y vamos viendo ahí cómo avanza la conversación. Bienvenidas y muy agradecida y contenta de tenerlas acá. Anaí, cuéntanos un poquitito.
Gracias, muchas gracias por la invitación, Anahi, y por hacer todo este trabajo de las prácticas. Creo que es importante también para el movimiento en general que se dé a conocer todo lo que estamos haciendo y no solamente a nivel internacional, sino las pequeñas acciones que vamos haciendo para tener iniciativas de transición y sobre todo para conectar con la comunidad con la que hacemos el trabajo a pequeña escala, ¿no? Entonces, pues, bueno, yo me llamo Anaí. Llevo ya desde el 2014 trabajando con Transición, y bueno, ya me formé, me hice facilitadora en 2016 en Chile. Eh, entonces de ahí ya me empecé como a involucrar más como más en el hub de México y bueno, ahorita estoy apoyando, coordinando, co-creando con Roberto, con Dora y con Gainco, este hub de México. Y bueno, pues hemos tenido muchos aprendizajes y experiencias de transición que podemos compartir. Y una de ellas, pues justo para este evento, para iniciar con nuestras prácticas, es el café reparación, que surge de bueno, vimos que había de todas las iniciativas que teníamos, una que es muy fuerte para México siempre es la de la moneda social. Llama mucho la atención y de hecho la moneda social tiene mucha historia en México y ya es como algo como que de lo que ya sabíamos bastante, digamos, en México como práctica no solamente de transición, sino de otros colectivos. Entonces, observamos que esta práctica de la reparación, de juntarse como a platicar, de darle nueva vida y nuevo uso a no solamente a las bicicletas, a las máquinas de coser y demás, era como una solución como muy práctica para las comunidades, así como lo es la gratiferia y los trueques. Este, entonces, pues empezamos a crear, más que nada yo en este espacio, en la iniciativa de Tepoztlán, lo que es el café reparación, porque yo ya tenía mucho tiempo de estar trabajando en colectivos por medio de lo que es el bordado, el tejido, que a mí me parece más allá de las prácticas relacionadas con los cafés reparación y proyectos en general una herramienta muy poderosa para conectar con las comunidades, empezar a enlazarnos y también pues crear algo como bonito que se pueda vender. Entonces, desde ahí, desde esa práctica que yo ya tenía con ciertas comunidades, introduciéndome con el bordado, por ejemplo, eh, empecé como a ver que en este espacio que tengo, que ya tengo un huerto sintrópico y que hicimos un taller de agricultura sintrópica y fue justo lo que hizo que se inaugurara este espacio y que aparte pues hay máquinas de coser que se puede compartir, que ya está el proceso con la escuela y demás, empieza lo que es el café reparación como iniciativa en Tepoztlán y parte del proyecto como transición y de ahí obviamente pues empezamos a conectar con otras personas que estaban reparando o que estaban conectando con las comunidades también por medio de esta gran herramienta que es milenaria, o sea, los humanos nos hemos conectado por medio del tejido y los textiles. En Latinoamérica es como algo muy preciado y sigue siendo una forma de comunicación. Las comunidades originarias comunican todo su trabajo de la milpa, de lo que dicen día a día por medio del bordado y del tejido. Entonces, pues no es una práctica que digamos que estamos inventando, sino que retomamos y que la traemos justo para seguir conectando. Entonces, pues ahí me encuentro a Dora, interesada en el movimiento de transición, con este proyecto muy afín y muy hermoso, y pues empieza a ver esta intención de colaborar juntas, ¿no? el movimiento de transición en México, el café reparación, con lo que es Surciendo el Planeta, que ahorita les va a presentar Dora lo que es Surciendo el Planeta, y he tenido la fortuna de participar con ellas en algunos talleres, incluso hasta dando, asesorando a las personas, ayudándoles a montar lo que es todo el bosque. Entonces, pues yo me siento muy contenta de tener esta gran colaboración, que aparte, pues Surciendo no nada más está en México, sino que está en muchas partes de Latinoamérica y también del mundo. Y bueno, algo también muy hermoso es que surgió de una necesidad de conexión desde la pandemia. Entonces, pues bueno, esto se lo dejo a Dora, por favor, cuéntalo, Dora. Y pues muy agradecida de estar en este día de prácticas, de compartir este proceso tan sanador y tan hermoso que es lo que es reconectar por medio de algo muy bello que son los hilos. Y bueno, y el remiendo también, y todo lo que eso implica. Gracias, Anahi.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias por esa introducción. Este, este, Surciendo el Planeta es tantas cosas que no sé bien por dónde empezar, así que lo voy a contar en orden cronológico. Este, en el 2016, una amiga me convenció de que empezara a dar talleres, porque yo usaba la ropa vieja de mis hijos o la remendaba para que la siguiera usando el siguiente hijo o la transformaba en otra cosa y me dijo, no, haz tu taller. Y justo un día de la Tierra 2016 en Huerto Tlatelolco, que es donde vamos a dar el taller el día de justo en relación al Día de la Tierra a fin de mes, o sea, vamos a estar cumpliendo justo 8 años, dimos nuestro primer taller, yo y esa amiga. Este, y la idea en ese primer momento era visibilizar el textil que la gente considera basura, visibilizar que no tiene por qué ser basura, que es materia prima para hacer otras cosas bonitas, invitar a reflexionar sobre todo esto que estamos generando y tirando, que en realidad debería seguir circulando, y de ahí pasar a otras reflexiones sobre nuestra relación con la naturaleza y nuestra ocupación de este planeta maravilloso. Este, Todo en torno a estar haciendo algo bonito con las manos, una reconexión con esas prácticas ancestrales que, bueno, el ser humano ha llegado a este momento de su historia porque es súper ingenioso y súper capaz con las manos y sin embargo la mayor parte de la población urbana en estos tiempos hace muy poco con las manos que no sea escribir mensajitos, ¿no? Entonces, al estar usando las manos, te libera la mente y la boca para hablar y reflexionar. Y bueno, después de ese taller y durante varios años empezaron a evolucionar esos talleres, también dábamos talleres de remiendo, y luego también de lo que empezamos a llamar artivismo, donde la creación en sí no era necesariamente algo que te fueras a poner o que fueras a usar, sino algo que diera, compartiera un mensaje a través de una imagen bordada o un texto bordado. No sé si alcanzan a leer este que tengo detrás mío, pero este es un ejemplo. Este, entonces, este, pues en realidad todo eso que hacíamos desde el origen de transformar la ropa vieja en cosas nuevas, yo en realidad lo considero parte del activismo ahora. En el 2016 ni conocía la palabra, pero es una forma de hacer arte, que comunica, que a veces no tiene palabras, de todas maneras comunica. Aquí tenemos unas prendas que estoy remendando, que, que considero que también, aunque no tienen texto, comunican algo. Yo espero que sean tan bonitos que la gente te diga, ay, qué lindo esta tal cosa, y entonces te da pie para abrir esa conversación sobre la problemática ambiental, la problemática social y cómo están tan entrelazados. Este, pero bueno, todo esto que estoy comentando hasta ahora fue local, fue en la Ciudad de México y eran talleres presenciales como era la normalidad hasta el 2020. Y en el 2020 sucedió que por primera vez recibimos un micro apoyo de la Secretaría de Cultura de aquí de la ciudad, pero justo al mismo tiempo empezó la pandemia y entonces la secretaría nos dijo que los talleres teníamos que hacerlos en línea. Y en esos talleres en línea ya no llegaron solo chilangas, personas de la Ciudad de México, sino todos los hispanohablantes que querían llegar. Y ahí empezaron a sumarse muchas argentinas, algunas chilenas, españolas, y así empezó la conexión más allá, bueno, en todo el país de México, primero, porque antes solo estábamos en la ciudad, y más allá de las fronteras de México. Y entonces empieza a dar una dinámica muy interesante, muy esperanzadora, de muchísima conexión con esas realidades diversas, pero con mucho fondo común, a través de esas fronteras y la posibilidad de sostenernos y apoyarnos a pesar de que una en un lugar se sienta muy deprimida por un acontecimiento particular, y que las demás nos damos ideas, nos damos esperanza, nos inspiramos para dar otro paso más. Bueno, al final de la serie de talleres que dimos en el 2020, ya nos, ya nos volvimos colectiva internacional, aunque al principio solo éramos 14 en un chat de WhatsApp. Y en el 2021 nos preguntamos qué hacemos, cómo activamos nuestra nueva existencia como colectiva. Y ahí es cuando empezamos a armar lo que comentaban ahí del bosque, el bosque de esperanza. La idea inicial fue que cada una abordara un árbol en un formato que decidimos todas, para llevar a la conferencia climática de ese año, la COP26 en Glasgow. Y éramos 14 y dijimos, bueno, algunas vamos a poder, nos alcanza el tiempo para hacer 2 arbolitos, a lo mejor llegamos a 20 y tenían ojales y botones y lo armamos, y aunque sea un bosquecito chiquito, va a llevar esperanza y ánimo, porque si se acuerdan, esa conferencia climática era la primera post-pandémica donde creíamos que los grandes señores que toman las decisiones del mundo ya iban a haberse dado cuenta que era hora de hacer las cosas de otro modo. Y entonces nuestras ganas en crear este bosque era mandarles buenas vibras, ánimo, ustedes sí pueden, las negociaciones son difíciles, pero ustedes sí pueden. Y lo compartimos en lo que eran nuestras redes sociales humildes en ese entonces. Yo no creo que hayamos pasado de 2,000 o 3,000 seguidores entonces. Y para nuestra sorpresa, en el lapso de 3 meses entre que tomamos la decisión de empezar a bordar árboles y la conferencia climática, nos llegaron 157 árboles bordados en tela reciclada de más de 10 países, ¿no? Y entonces ahí empieza esta sensación de conexión y de una preocupación compartida entre mujeres, madres, abuelas, hermanas, hijas, en todo el planeta. Sí bordaron 2 que 3 hombres, pero realmente es un movimiento de mujeres. Y entonces la reflexión posterior de todas estas mujeres fue, en realidad, a lo mejor a quienes tenemos que comunicar es con nuestros vecinos, con nuestros amigos. Si hay más de 140 mujeres en el mundo que vieron esta cuentita mínima de redes sociales y se sumaron, no nomás con una firma virtual, sino con las horas y las miles de puntadas que llevaba cada bordado, entonces seguramente en cada barrio hay hasta 140 mujeres, digo 140 porque es aproximadamente las que participaron en ese lapso de 3 meses. Si pudiéramos encontrar esas mujeres en cada barrio, los barrios serían otros, ¿no? Y me parece que es mucho el sentido del movimiento de transición en general, de empezarnos a juntar, de empezarnos a hablar. Y para mí fue un proceso transformativo y lo que sigue también se sentía muy solitario. Y desde que empieza a suceder este movimiento internacional, te sientes siempre conectada. Siempre hay con quién consultar, quién te apoya, quién te saca del hoyo cuando te deprimes porque las noticias son terribles. Entonces esa parte de conectar ha sido fenomenal. Ahorita tenemos reuniones virtuales todos los meses y entonces estamos siempre reconectando y es maravilloso porque en los últimos meses muchas de las células en diferentes ciudades de América Latina están cada vez más autónomas, más vivas, más armando movimientos en sus localidades que están fenomenales, ¿no? O sea, son espacios donde la gente, principalmente mujeres, se acerca a bordar y en torno al bordado empiezan a platicar de todas las cosas prácticas que pueden empezar a hacer a nivel individual, a nivel familiar y a nivel colectivo. O sea, en realidad llevo años soñando en hacer un huerto, pero solo a raíz de estar en la colectiva siento la esperanza de que sí, esto se puede lograr. Tiene que haber, aunque yo no los conozca, tiene que haber gente interesada. Nomás hay que empezar a mover las cosas para que esa gente aparezca. Y efectivamente, el sábado pasado instalamos nuestro primer lombricompostero comunitario y ya hay 6 familias contribuyendo a alimentar a las lombrices. Y ahí, ¿no? O sea, son pequeños logros. El problema parece mucho más grande, parece que no avanzamos lo suficientemente rápido, pero no podemos dejar de avanzar, paso a pasito, paso a pasito. Y yo digo que somos la puntita de la cuña. Y si juntarnos a abordar nos permite tener esa esperanza, es maravillosa. Este, por otro lado, pues aquí queríamos hablar del remiendo. El remiendo es una parte súper importante, es el nombre de la colectiva, ¿no? Surciendo el planeta es una manera, una técnica de remiendo. Y hay una parte sanadora. O sea, en el remendar tu ropa para no tener que ir a la empresa destructora del planeta de comprarte otra prenda, sino remendar esta, ya es un significado que le das. Pero el acto de concentrarte en un pedacito de tela de este tamaño para resolver este hoyo, ese enfocarte, ese acto manual, me parece que también es muy sanador. Son muchas conexiones y detalles que nos vuelven a asociar con otro momento de la humanidad, de la humanidad como elemento este, definitivamente no destructivo en el planeta y hasta benéfico, ¿no? O sea, durante los milenios que ha habido seres humanos en la Tierra, nos hemos tenido que vestir para protegernos de la intemperie y nos hemos tenido que remendar porque la tela, el vestido era de las cosas más preciosas y más difíciles de hacer. Y entonces el que tenías lo cuidabas y lo cuidabas y lo cuidabas y lo hacías bien de entrada para que no se rompiera. Este, y en la modernidad todo eso está tergiversado, pero al sentarnos a remendar nos conectamos con todos esos sentidos. Este, entonces, pues remendar, recrear con la ropa vieja, para mí es un acto con una coherencia interna que además nos permite comunicar con otros, tiene muchísimos sentidos. Este, y bueno, el 27 de este mes vamos a estar haciendo un taller que llamamos Abordando el Agua, que es un taller de bordado donde estamos creando una manta muy inspirada en nuestras compañeras argentinas que iniciaron su manta del agua antes y que está muy interesante porque las de Guadalajara en México y las de Pergamino en la Argentina ya cada una tiene su manta con la temática del agua y el mensaje local. Este, y ese es otro de los valores de la colectiva porque nos contagiamos y nos inspiramos unas de otras. Pues este taller es para invitar a la gente a sentarse, a concentrarse y a reflexionar sobre el agua mientras hacen una pieza de bordado, una manualidad. Creo que eso es suficiente por ahora.
No sé si quieres, Anaí, contarnos un poquitito en breves minutos las acciones que van a haber para el Día de la Tierra, el 27 de abril. ¿Cuáles son las prácticas que van a estar ahí en los distintos talleres antes de cerrar?
Sí, muchas gracias. Bueno, pues para nosotros es un día de práctica completo de lo que es transición. Va a estar la colectiva surciendo con el taller de bordado, pero también va a ser un círculo de la esperanza. También va a estar todo el equipo del Huerto Tlatelolco, que es un espacio increíble que se tomó en donde fue un lugar difícil en México, con una historia difícil en México en el año 68, ahí es donde también se están haciendo nuevas cosas como huertos comunitarios y proyectos. Este espacio es bien importante para este punto de México. Y va a haber siembra de milpa colectiva, actividades para niños, intercambio de semillas. Vamos a estar con el mercado orgánico y de consumo solidario de la Feria Multitrueque Michuca, que es uno de los proyectos que ha sostenido desde hace mucho tiempo lo que es el uso de la moneda comunitaria en México. Vamos a tener un taller de cómo usar y cómo hacer la moneda comunitaria. También vamos a tener un espacio de diálogos de transición facilitado con Open Space, con los proyectos que puedan acercarse o las iniciativas que ya existen y hablar sobre qué acciones podemos tomar por la madre tierra. Y cerramos con broche de oro con el documental de alternativas, construyendo futuros posibles en la noche y con un círculo de diálogo. Entonces vamos a estar todo el día, desde las 10 de la mañana con una ceremonia de apertura hasta cerrando con este documental en práctica de transición. Entonces, pues esto es en Ciudad de México, vamos a compartir en nuestras redes sociales, ya estamos compartiendo toda la información y y bueno, pues esperemos se puedan sumar si están en México y obviamente al día de práctica que es internacional con todo el movimiento de transición. Gracias.
All the love there to Dora and Anahi. They are now alive with these water blankets. And for me, so inspiring to listen to Dora and what was kind of emerging out of like the fungi realm. Like a lot of things happen in not willing, like it was just coming alive out of the need. So I would like to take some minutes to just reflect, react, bring questions, share whatever that is alive in you of what we have been watching. And also, if there is like the inspiration of activating something similar in your place, in your community, in your territory, is super welcome. And the idea is to do the stitch with Nicola, Resina, Dora, and Anahi. So el tejido puede crecer. Yeah, done. And then we go to Bonnie.
Yeah, no, I just had the thought of how nice it would be to stitch and like an idea for a future session. Maybe we come and we collect recycled material before the session and then we're guided through a little project. And I guess being a man, it's like I hear not a lot of men show up to these sewing events. And yeah, I think that could be cool as well, looking gender-wise, sewing for men or special workshops or something like that. But I would be very interested in, yeah, sewing and
Can I say, Dan, we had the very recent event, Transition Town event, we had in Tooting called Tooting Can, which I mentioned at the end. It was really fun because a couple of men sat who had never sewed, sat with me. And I was holding this up because you can see a couple of borrow patches that I've made. And it's really simple to have a session, actually. You just need a square of denim, which is really easy, and some little scraps of fabric. So on our website, Transition Tooting, if you click on the blog for Tooting Can, you can find instructions of how to do it. So if you want to have a go, but I really recommend it because when we've done quite a few of them now, as you saw from my pictures, and people do find it really relaxing. It's very simple for a beginner. And it just becomes a relaxing thing you can do in front of the television. But then you can, so here I put it on a bag, but you could put them on your, you know, on your clothes, on a jacket, something like that. And you just put some pieces of really scrapped tiny bits of fabric, which can be really abstract as well, and just have fun with it. So really recommend, and men can do it as well. So
yes. Oh, cool. Thank you. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
That would be great, Dan. I share, Bonnie, with you some links in the Zoom chat. Many of them are in Spanish, as are Anaís and Dora's, and welcome Nicola also and Resina to share more input and more guidance in English. And part of this project of practicing transition is to have like a wiki of many practices of transition. So you will, if you come later, and I will share you also the link now to that. We are going to be sharing many of these practices in this webpage that I had prepared for you here. Copy. So you just come once in a while and you will receive also the invitation for the new events. And we're doing it in Spanish, in Portuguese, in English, with the intention of having interpretation so we can expand, and something that is very much in our hearts, to have language justice and social justice. Very similar to what I hear that you are doing, Resina and Nicola. And for my side, I'm psychologist, and one of the things that really touches my heart is the reparation that can happen in a simple action. As I was saying before, like the little big things that are behind the screen or below the wool, in the invisible world.
Yeah, it's so joyful. We've had so much joy from the project, and you know, it's become so much more than a group. You know, it just about the sewing. It's become so much more, and you know, some people have visited us and have felt moved to tears, and lots of the Oxfam staff often say they just love the vibe when we're there, and it just changes everything. They say, you know, they can be having a bad day, but when we're there, it's just sheer joy. And I would just love, one of the reasons I was glad of this opportunity was I'd love to share it and more people to carry on to do this, because I really recommend it.
Yeah, I hear you, and at the same time I received the first question that Bonnie brought about the funding, because many times for this type of gatherings there is not so much support. So at least one of the things that Dora was sharing with us in some moment was that somehow this action of meeting brought creativity for people to create their own business. Like it opened a door that they would have never opened before if they don't come to this space of creativity.
Exactly.
And
I think, you know, we found that women who had almost hidden their creativity have so much talent, and now they have confidence and they're taking it further. And even one of the refugee ladies is starting to sell some of her work. And you know, it's just having that people around you to give you confidence, to sort of praise you and encourage you, and also to inspire you. And, you know, it's wonderful to see what can happen.
Yeah, and I would like to ask if there is another question, comment, inspiration, reaction. I have another, but I want to listen to you too. Barb,
Yeah.
and then Bonnie, and then Dan.
Okay. So it was very interesting. I think it was Dora who mentioned that this is an alternative to so much time on phones and digital devices. So I'm wondering about the intergenerational aspect. Like we actually have been working with high school kids and doing a repair training in schools. We're trying that. So
great.
I'd like to know or get ideas on how you know, we can really include a lot of young people, and yeah. I mean, very young people, high schoolers.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And we've found that sometimes when it's been holidays, people have brought children or grandchildren, and those events that I showed you, people come along with children and they love it. They absolutely love it. You know, they're just so confident. You probably found that. And yeah, I think it would be great to see more in school, because also to go along with the conversation. So while you're doing that stitching, you can have that conversation about fast fashion.
Right.
Very important for young people, I think, because they don't always make the link, do they, in you know, really cherishing and enjoying the clothes you have rather than, you know, spending lots.
It's starting. There's a lot of good videos about like the Story of Stuff has these great videos about where our thrown away clothes go to and what a problem it's causing. I think linking that with these projects has helped.
That reminds me, because just to mention, remind you, we're working with Oxfam. So again, there's scope there, I think, for other groups to work with charity shops, people who are dealing with donated clothes. The shocking thing is, when you see behind the scenes, is how much is wasted. Even though they try and resell it, then more, and they do their best with it to be well recycled. But there's so much stuff, and so I think talking about resources, and Resina mentioned the right thing, making those connections with other organisations. There must be scope to replicate this with, you know, if you work hand in hand with other charities who are selling clothes, you can get your hands on all of that stuff, you know, that they don't need.
And I think your point about you were given the space by Oxfam. Yes. I am curious about the spaces of the project in the South American, Latin American countries. I got that some of it was online, but is there a space where people get together? What are those like? The repair cafes? I was just curious. Maybe Maria or somebody could just answer that question about the spaces where people get together.
Cut a little bit, Bonnie, but if I understand well, the question is if they gather physically. Yes.
I was going to say we also do repair cafes, and very often local churches offer spaces to support. I don't know whether that's the case what they're doing in Mexico, but I think if you have those connections, as Resina said, with your community, people will willingly give you space. The space will follow, you know.
Yeah, no, we've been trying to do it. That's why I said we've been doing it in the schools. The public, because we have public school system and we do, but it's not a continuous space. It's not like a space where people can just drop in. The space,
But do organisations where you are that would have the big space, because churches are great examples of really large buildings with lots of space, and that's where a lot of our transition events happen. We had our Tooting Town event in a church, and the repair cafes happen in churches because the space is so big, and the churches are happy for that space to be used when it's not being used for services. So I guess it's just about linking and finding out what works in your community, where those spaces are and how they can be used.
Yeah, we've had one in a church too. And also community maker. We have maker spaces here, and those are also.
I think it's making those connections, isn't it? Just you know, the more you connect with community, the more options appear.
But it'd just be nice to have a more permanent space. That's I'm just wondering.
This morning, Moni, I invite you to see a colibri talk that we have done. If you can help me, was Ukraine with Irene, and we have Tracy from, I don't remember.
It was Croatia. And then Hungary.
Croacia. Eso, Croacia y Hungría. And they were sharing that with very little square meters, they were doing magic. And it's amazing. They share in the presentation. You can see it later, like having a very little space in a corner of a street, like what start emerging a lot of gardens and things, and with this like 5 meters square meters, like.
Great.
So I wish that we have spaces to start sharing all this. And I want to also listen to Barb and then to Dan. You were with your hands up.
So I'm calling in from the traditional lands of the Tlingit here in Southeast Alaska, and they've been good stewards of this land for thousands of years. Sitka is on an island, and everything comes in by either by barge, or by plane. And our Transition Sitka group is working to make ourselves more resourceful and resilient. It wouldn't take, within a few days of the barges not being able to come or the planes not being able to fly, we would be very, one thing is, we wouldn't have enough food, right? Our grocery stores can only carry enough food for a few days for a population of 8,500 in our town. So I am very happy to have taken part in this presentation, not so much for the sewing specifically, but for just general ideas. How do we get people together to use what we have and to recycle our clothes, to recycle our appliances, to recycle our, whatever it is. And so just hearing some of these ideas have been really wonderful. I'm afraid that people are really not going to take this stuff to heart until it's an emergency. And so I really want us to begin preparing. Food security is a big thing for us too, and we're working on that as well. And you're right about the little spaces to grow things. It doesn't take much. So thank you very much. Really appreciate the presentation. Thanks.
Thank you, Barb. And it's so true, the isolation of the island. In Chile, we have the same because we have the desert and the mountain and the sea. So it's kind of similar. And the other thing that is for me important to mention is when some of you were mentioning about the huge amount of waste that is cloth that they are carrying to Africa and also to the desert in Chile. And for here in Chile, people don't know that. I knew that when I was out watching an exposition in Greece that they were mentioning Chile. And I say, but how can we not know that they are doing this with our desert? It's amazing. Like this is the way things work, like underground somehow with powers. So I want to share that many people here, they don't know what is happening in the Atacama Desert. And I think for many places in the world, it's like that. So thanks for the consciousness and to help repairing together. Yeah, I think these kind of gatherings are also repairing very much the long history from the South and the North and all what had happened in terms of resources and humans. Yeah, natural resources and human resources. So thank you for allowing reparation also. And I would like to listen to you, Dan. You have also something to share.
Yeah, just a curiosity, I guess, hearing similar projects from Mexico and London. It's a curiosity around, like, have you used technology to connect to groups in different parts of the world? And I imagine there's different techniques in traditional Mexican sewing, and you're probably seeing this a lot with the refugee population coming from different cultures and maybe carrying different skills and techniques, but just the idea for, through technology, have these kind of exchanges opened up, or
Definitely. What's interesting is having people where English isn't their first language as well. And so I try and teach a little bit about some of the vocabulary that we use in sewing, and looking at the embroideries as well, which are embroidery techniques that fascinates me from different parts of the world. Resina's brought some of your traditional stuff in as well, haven't you, Resina? And I love that conversation. So not so much with technology, although sometimes we get technology to translate things for each other. Interestingly, one of our local London members of the group found a suitcase full of beautiful Afghan clothing, which was extraordinary. So brought that to, and that's like embroidery on velvet, brought it to the group, which she didn't know that's what it was. But the ladies from Afghanistan recognized it as such and then modeled it, but then that led to conversation about, we had to translate their word for velvet and how it was made. We had we had a week where we all brought in different embroideries. So that's often different from around the world. I would like to explore that further as well. But yeah, London is a great place for for talking about all of those different things and influence. So yes, definitely there's ways we could connect from that point of view as well.
And I think that the more conversations we have like that, the more we can promote tolerance. And, the more the group lives up to its name as being a place of sanctuary for these women who, have been coming here, in fear of their lives, and just finding that working women's space where people are prepared to listen and understand and learn about their culture.
Yeah.
Yes, Resina. Yes, and like again, stitching with another practice that we have a couple of hours ago that is related with deep listening. And I believe that when we are sitting in circle doing something like focus with the physical body, we are more open to listen to each other. And in many moments, the heart opens and we breathe together. And in my experience, when this happens, this grieving together releases like a tension that is in the system, in the body, in the cells, that allows healing. And I believe the power of coming together to work with the hands, like, and to build relationships from that, like very day-to-day life action, is super, is something I would love to recover. Like when we're bringing back from our like ancestral lineages, the memory, this is a memory that I would really love to recover. So I'm super grateful that you have had the space, the passion, and give the time, energy, the love for this to be reactivating. And I share also in the chat that on August 7th, you will receive more info in the future. Dora and Anahi will be giving a workshop to share more about Latin American experience. One of the things I know in Mexico City, they are having a lot of difficult situations with the water. And this is why it's kind of also a magic and a prayer to work with water kind of topics, to bring water in the system and to heal relationship with water. So everything is kind of interrelated. They're all.
Yeah,
So
my ears pricked up at that, because in the UK there's a huge worry about the quality of our rivers at the moment. So when I heard Dora talking about the blankets and the water, I was really interested. Is there something we could do here as well? Another connection, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, I don't know if there is something more to share, Resina, Bart, Cynthia. There is something you would like to share. We're super grateful you're here with us.
Thank you. Well, it was sad that I couldn't help, but it's amazing what you all guys do. And I wanted to share that I am doing this present, and I don't know if you can see it.
Oh yes, you're doing something gorgeous.
It's for my taekwondo teacher because he's retiring, and I always have done presents with my hands. I think all you guys share is that, you know, the connection and everything. And for example, I'm a person who I'm like that. So I really need something here in order to, with my hands, I need to be busy in order to listen better, actually. And there's I teach teenagers here in an organization that is for communities, is for teenagers without any other opportunities. And actually the teenagers listen to you like this. And lots of people think they are not listening to me, they are not respecting, and it's the other way around, you know. So and that brings me one question, because I was wondering, I imagine that in these communities that you set up your work, there's a lot of people who wants to participate because once I'm thinking in immigrants, for example, they want to have a place to gather and to be like communicating with somebody like in the same needs. But I'm sure, I'm positive that lots of people have told you art is not my thing, doing things with my hand is not my thing. So how do you convince these people like we can all do something with our hands?
I think that is perfect for when you're having workshops, you know. So you can't expect those people to come to a sewing group because they'll say, not for me. But it's really surprising when they come to an event like Tooting Can that we had, or the event in the shop itself. Then they sort of lose their shyness a little bit. They're curious. They come up, and if it's something really quite simple, like that's why I often start with that patch thing, because it's very simple. It's not intimidating. I think people can be intimidated, so my message would be to keep it very simple, and then the pleasure on people's faces, because they complete that thing in a short time. They've completed something, and it's a start. And people have told me they've continued because they found it, like you were saying, you know, good for their mind, their busy mind. So yeah, starting at workshops, I think, is a really good thing amongst other things going on. Would you say so, Resina?
Yeah, I would say that the Tooting Can event that we had recently was really fantastic for getting people to kind of dip their toe in something different, something new, something that they didn't know about before. And there were opportunities to do all kinds of things, like make some food, or make your own cleaning product, or do some repairing. So just things that you might not necessarily have the confidence or skills. You might not feel you have the skills, but you're testing it. You're trying this and you're trying that. And so it was a great enabling people to just try new things. And some of them would say, "Oh wow, this is great! I've never tried this before," and you know, so more events like that were really helpful.
And as we're sharing, Resina, I think we should say we found that a very easy event to organise, because we had quite a few people, each offered a skill with support from others. And so we each had a table with these different things that Resina has mentioned. So all you had to do was organise your own skill, come along, and the response from the community was just great, and it was so much fun. And one of the things I'm and another TT friend involved in is women's walking football. So we had a coach from our local football team, and he was a young guy of 20, and it really made us laugh because he had to go on the sewing machine. He had his hand painted with henna. He just got right into everything, as you really wouldn't expect someone. So I'd recommend doing that as well, Resina. It's quite a simple thing to organise, but really great fun.
It's really good because you had so many different people, and my particular thing that I was sharing that day was cooking, and so many conversations about cooking, and people saying, well, in my country I do it like this, and in my country I do it this way, and it's just, again, it's about sharing and about strengthening a community. That's something that I really believe that Transition Town do so well. Making communities more resilient.